Hi there, my name's Michelle Marsland and Marsland Accountants. And this last week, the bounce back loans came in. So that's been a really exciting time, but there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of people are having problems and not understanding some of the rules. So what I thought I'd do is I'd just run through the rules from the government website, which is gov.uk, and the British Business Bank website. I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't advise you whether it's a good thing or not to take out a loan, but what I can do is just run through some of the conditions for getting a loan, because there has been some confusion. So one of the things about the loan is it's a self-certification loan. So this is different to the CBILS loan. All right, so basically, from what I've understand from people who've already done it, it can be a 5-minute form, just filling in a few details with your own bank, and it can be quite easily done, and some of them have the money quite quickly. So it is a self-certification, and one of the questions that we get asked quite a bit actually is, what turnover should I use? Now, it does depend on your bank. The idea is that you can get a maximum of 25% of the business turnover. That doesn't mean to say it's right for your business, but that's the maximum you can borrow. Now, some banks are accepting business turnover based on your last accounts. Some are just based on your estimate for the calendar year. Some are based on up to 12 months, up to the end of April 2020. So that's one of the things that you have to work out, what that business turnover should be. That's nothing to do with your accounts per se. It's what you think you can borrow. So, because remember, this is self-certification. So you can borrow between £2,000 and £50,000, but it has to be 25% of your turnover. So, for example, if you have a £100,000 turnover, the maximum you can borrow is £25,000, not £50,000. You'd have to have a turnover of at least 200,000 to be able to borrow the £50,000. All right, the loans are 100% government backed, so that's a really good news. So there's no personal guarantees. They can't ask you for a personal guarantee. The banks can't. The interest rate's been set as well, so there's no interest for the first year. There's no repayments in the first year either. And then once interest does kick in 12 months' time, so that should be 12 months from when you take out the loan, and the interest rate has been set by the government at 2.5%. All right, we know the loans are up to 6 years long, but you are allowed to repay it in under 12 months if you can, and that's the way you can reduce your the interest that you have to pay. I believe that the loans are currently around till about the 3rd of November 2020. So whereas a lot of people are rushing in to try and get some money, which is great, if you need money, then that might be what you have to do. But it might be that your business doesn't need that yet. So you do have time to apply later. You're only allowed to apply for one from what I've seen on the banking information. So yeah, it's government backed. There's no personal guarantees. There's no fees as well. There's no early repayment fees as well. So that's really good if you've going to have one of these loans. That sometimes if you have an ordinary loan, you can end up having a repayment fee. Now, I can't tell you which bank's good and which bank isn't good. What I can tell you is from what I've been reading from other accountants and from other people who've been doing these loans, that Lloyds seems to be coming out as a clear winner at the moment. I mean, we're only 3 days in, but they have paid out money sometimes to people within 6 hours. So that's an excellent record for Lloyds. I'm afraid the other high street banks have not been performing as well, by a long shot for some of them saying the application could take 8 weeks, or some of the reports I've been having. So it just sounds crazy, really. So yeah, Lloyds are definitely coming out on top. How long that'll last, who knows, but they're getting a good reputation for this at the moment. So, but I can't guarantee that that's the best bank for you to use either. So please don't hold me to that, but I just hear from people that they're getting some really good reports from them. So yeah, like I say, the other high street banks are not doing as well, and there are some other banks online. When I first looked at this first thing Monday morning, there was only about 6 providers, and then when I went and looked in 2 days ago, there was about 10 providers. So if I go and have a look at it now, I don't know how many providers there are now, but yeah, it looks like 8, 9, 10, 11 now. All right, so there's 11 providers. So if you want to find out who is a provider, just look on the British Business Bank website, because that one's okay. That's one of the good websites. So we have to be careful these days because of scams and things like that. But they are a good website to use, and gov.uk is a good website to use. The British Bank website as well, then that will tell you basically about the terms and conditions. There's a lot of terms and conditions. I'm not going to go through them all. And the purpose of this video really is to just give you a bit of an idea of some of the basics of it. But what they do recommend on that website is that you try your own bank first. just because your own bank's got your history, basically, they've got a history with you, they know what you've been doing, they know what money's been going in and out. So chances are you're just going to get it agreed quicker just because they know you. But it doesn't mean to say that other banks won't accept you. From what I've heard so far, HSBC have been one of the banks that are saying they're accepting people who are not customers. Some of the other banks will do it, so there are alternatives, don't worry. It's just HSBC have been quite prominent in saying that they are accepting people who haven't got bank accounts with them. But at the moment, both HSBC and NatWest, I think, have said that. At the moment, none of them actually come through, and I haven't seen anybody got any money yet. So, please do your own research as well. Obviously, this is just to try and help people and point people in the right direction of what we've been hearing, really. One of the things I've heard that people have said, well, if I've got a personal account, can I apply? Yes, I have seen on some of the bank's websites, they have said, yes, you can apply if you've got a personal account with them. But what they're probably going to ask for is your 18-19 tax return, so they can show that, to prove that you own business. If it's not your own bank, they're going to ask things about money laundering, all sorts of things as well, because they don't know you from Adam. So there's going to be lots of different things that you might have to do if it's not your own bank. But yeah, personal accounts, I have heard you can be apply through some of the banks. And to be fair, if you don't need the money just this minute, then more banks than that will come online in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm sure they will, and there'll be more different conditions. British Business Bank website does say if you're refused by one bank, please apply to another. So they're not saying just because one bank says no, that all banks will say no. So different banks, different criteria. One of the things you may get asked, actually, and one of the conditions is actually, and that's quite an important condition, is whether you're a business or whether you were a business in difficulty at the 31st of December 2019. And there's a lot of conditions attached to that, and those conditions can be found on the British Business Bank. So I'm not going to go through all of those because that'll make the video far too long, but it just gives you an idea that basically the conditions are on there of what a business in difficulty looks like. Santander actually have a checklist that's a page long with about 20 questions on that you go through and you answer yes or no to. And I have seen somewhere that it does say that even if you are in some sort of difficulty, doesn't mean to say you definitely won't get the funds, but just be careful if you were in difficulty, looking out for that. So yeah, all eligibility can be found on the British Business Bank website. The main conditions obviously are on the gov.uk website. Those are the reliable ones that you can use. And yeah, I'm happy to help, but I'm not a financial advisor, so please don't think I am. All I'm trying to do is just put out some information on this, and from what I've been reading and what I've been hearing. And I think in the next week or two, we'll see some more improvements as well. But yeah, this loan, the bounce back loan is, I love that word actually. The bounce back loan is good in the fact that it does seem to be getting some money out to people quickly, which is what it's all about. If you're self-employed, the self-employment money is coming through in the next week or two as well. So it's starting to be some good news for that. And we'll have some idea of the lockdown conditions as of Monday. So yeah, lots of bouncing, lots of good news.